The sun rose slowly over the dead mountains of Korra 5. The light was pale and cold, like the light of a dying star. Nothing grew on this world. Nothing sang. The rocks were gray and the sky was gray, and the dust that blew across the empty plains was gray too. Sergeant Taiho woke before the alarm. He always did. His body knew the time without being told. He sat up in his small bed and looked at the metal walls of his room. 3 years he had lived in this place. 3 years since the war ended. 3 years since she died. He dressed in silence. He put on his old uniform, the one with the patch on the shoulder that showed his unit number. He did not wear his weapon. He had not carried a weapon to the ridge in a very long time. There was no need. The war was over. From his small drawer, he took a bundle of flowers. They were not real flowers. Nothing real could grow on Korra 5. These were made of colored cloth and wire, made by his own hands in the quiet hours of the night. He made new ones every week. The old ones blew away in the wind or faded in the pale sun. Taiho stepped outside. The air was thin and cold. He could breathe it, but only just. The human scientists had changed the air years ago, made it possible for people to live here without masks. But it still felt wrong in his lungs. It still felt like a place that did not want him. The outpost was quiet at this hour. Most of the soldiers were still sleeping. Taiho walked past the long buildings where humans and Velen lived side by side. Once they had tried to kill each other. Now they shared meals and played cards and complained about the food together. Peace was a strange thing. A Velen guard stood at the gate. He was tall, almost 8 feet, with gray skin and eyes like black stones. His name was Tan, and he had been guarding this gate for 2 years. Tan looked at Toho. He looked at the flowers in his hands. He said nothing. He never said anything. But Toho could see the question in his eyes. It was always there. Every morning. The same silent question. Why? Toho nodded to the guard and walked through the gate. The path to the ridge was long and rocky. It took almost an hour to walk. Toho had walked it 1,096 times. He knew every stone. He knew every turn. He could walk it with his eyes closed. The wind blew hard as he climbed. It pushed against him like hands trying to hold him back. But Toho kept walking. He had walked through worse. He had walked through fire and blood and the screams of dying friends. A little wind was nothing. Behind him, in the tall watchtower of the outpost, Commander Ren stood watching. Ren was Velen, old and scarred from many battles. He had fought against humans for 20 years. He had killed many of them. Now he commanded an outpost where humans and Velen worked together. The universe had a strange sense of humor. Ren watched the small human figure climbing the ridge. He had watched this same scene every morning for 3 years. At first, he thought the human was mad. Then he thought it was some kind of punishment, a task given by human commanders. But no, Ren had asked. The human went by his own choice. Every single day, Ren did not understand Dot and Velen culture. The dead were forgotten. When a warrior fell, their name was never spoken again. Their belongings were burned. Their memory was erased. This was the way. The dead were gone, and the living had to move forward. To remember was to be weak. To grieve was to fail. But this human, this small, strange human, he climbed the ridge every morning to visit a pile of stones. He brought flowers that would only blow away. He spoke words to someone who could not hear. Ren shook his head and turned away from the window. Humans were strange creatures. Perhaps that was why they had been so hard to defeat in the war. Te-Ho reached the top of the ridge as the sun climbed higher. Before him lay the valley where the last battle had been fought. The ground was still scarred. Black marks spread across the rocks where plasma weapons had fired. Pieces of broken ships still lay scattered like the bones of dead giants. And there, at the edge of the ridge, stood a simple stone. It was not large. It was not beautiful. Tahoe had found it in the rubble after the battle and carried it here himself. He had carved words into it with his own knife. Private Yuna. Brave soldier. True friend. She gave her life so others could live. Tahoe knelt before the stone. The ground was hard and cold under his knees. He placed the flowers gently at the base of the marker. The wind tried to take them, but he pushed them into a crack in the rock where they would stay. For a long moment, he said nothing. He just looked at the stone and remembered her face. She had been young, only 23 when she died. She had black hair that she always kept short. She had a laugh that could fill a room. She had been afraid of the dark, but never afraid of battle. "Hello, Yuna," Tahoe said. His voice was soft. "I came again. Like I promised." The wind blew. The stone said nothing. But Tahoe kept talking. "The outpost is doing well. We got new supplies last week. Real coffee, not the fake stuff. You would have liked that. You always complained about the fake coffee." He smiled a little. It was a sad smile. The piece is holding. 3 years now. Can you believe it? We spent so long fighting, and now we eat dinner with them. The Valen, I mean. They're not so bad, really. Different. Strange, but not bad. He paused and looked out at the valley. Somewhere down there, under the rocks and dust, lay the remains of thousands. Human and Velen both. They had died fighting for things that seemed so important at the time. Now, no one could remember why the war had started. "I miss you," Tahoe said. "Every day. I know you would tell me to move on. You would say I am being foolish. But I cannot forget. I will not forget. You saved my life, Yuna. You pushed me out of the way and took the blast yourself. I should have been the one to die. Not you. Never you." His eyes grew wet, but he did not cry. He had cried enough in the first year. Now, the pain was quieter. It lived in his chest like a stone, heavy but familiar. "I will come back tomorrow," he said. "I will always come back. As long as I am alive, I will come to this place and say your name. You will not be forgotten. I promise." He stood slowly. His knees hurt from the hard ground. He was not young anymore. The war had aged him. The grief had aged him more. Tahoe looked at the stone one last time. Then he turned and began the long walk back to the outpost behind him. The flowers moved gently in the wind. The stone stood silent and still, watching over the valley of the dead dot, and in the watchtower, Commander Wren watched the human return. He did not understand what he had seen, but something about it stayed with him. Something about the small figure walking alone, carrying flowers to a pile of rocks, made him feel strange. That was a feeling he had not felt in a very long time. He did not have a word for it. The mess hall was loud with the sounds of eating and talking. Humans sat at long tables, sharing food and stories. Valen sat at their own tables nearby, eating in a quiet way. The two groups did not mix much during meals. Old habits died slowly. Tahoe sat alone at the end of a table. He ate his food without tasting it. His mind was still on the ridge, still with the stone and the flowers and the memories. It was always this way. His body came back to the outpost, but part of him stayed behind. Lieutenant Hana walked over and sat across from him. She was a medic, one of the best in the human forces. She had served with Tahoe during the war. She had known Yuna too. "You look tired," Hana said. She pushed a cup of coffee toward him. "Real coffee, from the new supplies." "I am always tired," Tahoe said. But he took the coffee and drank. It was warm and bitter and good. "You went to the ridge again this morning." "I go every morning." You know this. Hannah nodded. She did know. Everyone at the outpost knew. The human who walked to the grave every day. Some thought he was brave. Some thought he was sad. Some thought he was crazy. Hannah thought he was all three. It has been 3 years, Teho, she said gently. Yuna would not want you to suffer like this. I am not suffering. Teho looked into his coffee. I am remembering. There's a difference. Hannah wanted to say more, but she did not get the chance. A shadow fell over their table. They looked up and saw Commander Ren standing there. The Velen was huge. Even sitting down, Teho had to look up to see his face. Ren's gray skin was marked with old scars. His black eyes showed nothing. No warmth, no anger, no emotion at all. Human, Ren said. His voice was deep and rough. I would speak with you. Teho looked at Hannah. She looked worried. Velen commanders did not usually talk to human sergeants. Not like this. Not directly. What do you want? Teho asked. Ren sat down on the bench across from them. The bench groaned under his weight. He folded his large hands on the table and looked at Teho with those empty black eyes. I have watched you, Ren said, every morning for 3 years. You walk to the high place. You carry dead plants. You kneel before a rock and move your mouth. Then you walk back. Teho said nothing. He waited. I do not understand, Ren continued. The one you visit is dead. She cannot see you. She cannot hear you. She is gone. Why you go to her? The mess hall had grown quiet. Humans and Velen alike were watching. This was unusual. This was interesting. Teho took a deep breath. He had known this question would come someday. He had just not known how to answer it. Because I loved her, he said simply. Because she was my friend. Because she died saving my life. Ren tilted his head. Love, friend, these are human words. I know them, but I do not feel them. Among my people, there is no love. There is duty. There is honor. There is service to the Empire. But love? He shook his head. This is weakness. It is not weakness, Teho said. His voice was firm. It is strength. The strongest thing I know. How can caring for the dead be strength? The dead are gone. They give nothing. They take nothing. They simply are not. To spend time and thought on them is to waste time and thought. Hannah leaned forward. Commander, may I speak? Ren looked at her. He nodded once. Among humans, Hannah said, we believe that people live on after death. Not in body, but in memory. When we remember someone, we keep them alive in a way. Their laugh, their smile, their words, the things they did. As long as one person remembers, they are not truly gone. Ren considered this a pleasant story, but it is not true. Memory is just electricity in the brain. When the brain dies, the memory dies. Nothing lives on. Maybe, Hannah said. But it feels true. And sometimes, what feels true matters more than what is true. Ren was silent for a long moment. Then he turned back to Teho, the one who died. She pushed you from the path of a weapon. She took the blow meant for you. Yes? I have read the battle reports. Teho nodded. His throat felt tight. Among my people, Ren said, this is called duty. A soldier protects another soldier. It is expected. It requires no special memory, no flowers, no words to stones. It simply is what warriors do. But she chose to do it, Teho said. His voice shook a little. She did not have to. She could have let me die. She chose to save me. That choice cost her everything. How can I not honor that? How can I just forget? Ren stared at him. For the first time, something moved in those black eyes. It was not emotion, not exactly, but it was something. An old Velen walked into the mess hall. He was thin and bent with age. His gray skin faded almost to white. He wore the robes of a diplomat. This was Elder Voss, visiting the outpost on some political mission. Voss had heard the conversation. He moved closer, his old eyes curious. "Forgive me," Voss said. "I could not help but listen. You speak of honoring the dead. This is a human custom, yes?" Teho nodded. "I have studied human cultures," Voss said. "You build great buildings for your dead. You carve their faces in stone. You write their names in books. You gather on special days to speak of those who are gone." "Yes," Teho said. "We do all of these things. Fascinating." Voss sat down slowly. His old bones creaked. "We Velen have no such customs. When one of us dies, we speak their name one last time. Then never again. We burn what they owned. We remove their image from our records. In one generation, it is as if they never existed." "That sounds lonely," Hana said. "It is efficient," Ren said. "It is sad," said Te-Ho. Voss looked at him with those old, tired eyes. "Perhaps. I have lived many years. I have seen many die. Friends, family, soldiers I commanded. I have forgotten them all, as my culture taught me. But sometimes, in the quiet of night, I wonder about them. I wonder if I should have remembered." Ren looked uncomfortable. "Elder, this is not proper talk." "I am old," Voss said. "I will say what I wish." He turned to Teho. "Tomorrow morning, when you walk to the high place, I would like to come with you. I would like to see this human custom. I would like to understand." Teho was surprised. "You want to come to the ridge?" "If you will allow it." Teho thought for a moment. He had always walked alone. It was his private time with Yuna, his sacred hour. But something in the old Velen's eyes made him say yes. "I leave at dawn," Teho said. "I will wait for you at the gate." Voss smiled. It was a strange expression on his gray face. "Thank you, human. I look forward to it." The old diplomat rose and walked away. Ren watched him go, his face unreadable. Then he looked back at Teho. "I still do not understand," Ren said. "But I begin to think that perhaps I should." He stood and left without another word. Hannah let out a long breath. "That was strange." "Yes," Teho agreed. That night, Teho lay in his bed and thought about the conversations. He thought about Ren's questions and Voss's curiosity. He thought about what it meant to remember and what it meant to forget. And then he slept. And in his sleep, he dreamed of Yuna. She was laughing, the way she used to laugh. She was alive and bright and full of joy. "You are doing good work," she said in the dream. "Keep going. Do not stop." When he woke, his pillow was wet with tears. But for the first time in a long time, they were not tears of grief. They were tears of hope. The dawn came cold and gray, like every dawn on Korra 5. Teho stood at the gate with his bundle of cloth flowers. He had made them carefully the night before, choosing bright colors. Red and yellow and blue. Colors that did not exist on this dead world. Elder Voss arrived slowly. His old legs did not move fast anymore. He wore heavy robes against the cold, and he carried a walking stick made of some dark metal. His breath made clouds in the thin air. "I am here," Voss said, "as I promised." "I see," Teho said. "The path is long. Are you sure you can walk it?" Voss smiled with his thin gray lips. "I have walked across battlefields, young human. I have walked through the ruins of cities. I can walk up a hill." Teho nodded. "Then let us go." They passed through the gate. Ton the guard watched them go. His black eyes showed surprise. In all the years he had guarded this gate, the human had always walked alone. This was new. The path wound up through the rocks. Tejo walked slowly, matching the pace of the old Velen. They did not speak at first. The wind blew and the rocks crunched under their feet, and the pale sun climbed higher in the gray sky. Finally, Voss broke the silence. "Tell me about the one you visit," he said. "Tell me about this Yuna." Tejo walked a few more steps before answering. "She was a soldier. Like me. We served in the same unit during the war. We fought side by side for 3 years. And she was your friend?" "Yes, my best friend. The best friend I ever had." Voss nodded slowly. "What did this friendship mean? What did you do together?" Tejo smiled a little, remembering. "We talked. A lot. About everything. About home. About family. About what we would do when the war ended. She wanted to open a small restaurant on Earth. She loved to cook. She was very good at it." "Cooking," Voss said. "The making of food. Yes. We Velen have no such art. Our food is made by machines. It is fuel, nothing more. For Yuna, food was love. She said you could taste the care someone put into a meal. She made food for our whole unit sometimes, using whatever she could find. It was never much, but it always tasted like home." They climbed higher. The outpost grew smaller behind them. Ahead, the ridge rose against the gray sky. "What else?" Voss asked. "What else did you do with this friend?" "We laughed," Tejo said. "Even in the war, even when things were terrible, she found ways to make us laugh. She told jokes. Bad jokes, mostly. But we laughed anyway. We needed to laugh. It kept us human." "Laughter," Voss said thoughtfully. "We Velen do not laugh. We find amusement in things, yes. But we do not make that sound you humans make. That strange sound from the belly. You should try it sometime. It feels good." Voss made a sound that might have been a chuckle. Or it might have been a cough. It was hard to tell. They walked on. The path grew steeper. Voss leaned on his stick but did not slow down. His old eyes were fixed on the ridge above. "You said she saved your life," Voss said. "Tell me how." Tejo's face grew serious. "It was the last day of the war. We did not know it was the last day then. We were fighting in the valley below. Plasma fire everywhere. Ships falling from the sky. It was chaos." He paused, the memory still sharp after 3 years. "I was running across open ground. I did not see the Velen soldier aiming at me. But Yuna saw. She was behind me, maybe 10 meters back. She shouted my name. I turned. And she ran." His voice grew thick. "She ran so fast. Faster than I knew she could run. She hit me from the side, knocked me down just as the plasma bolt fired. It missed me by a hand's width. But it did not miss her." Voss said nothing. He just listened. The bolt hit her in the chest. She fell beside me. I held her head in my lap. I told her she would be fine, that the medics would come. I lied to her, Voss. I knew she was dying. But I lied. What did she say? She smiled at me. She was dying, and she smiled. She said she was glad I was safe. She said she would see me again someday. And then she closed her eyes, and she was gone. They walked in silence for a long while after that. The only sound was the wind and their footsteps and the tap of Voss's stick on the stone's dot at last. They reached the ridge. Ho stopped before the memorial stone. The flowers he had placed the day before were still there, pressed into the crack in the rock. He knelt and removed them gently, setting them aside. Then he placed the new flowers in their place. Voss stood behind him, watching. The old Velen's face showed nothing, but his eyes were very bright. "Yuna," Tejo said softly, "I brought someone to meet you today. This is Elder Voss. He is Velen." I know. But the war is over. We are trying to understand each other now. He wanted to see why I come here. He wanted to understand. Tejo looked back at Voss. Would you like to say something? Voss seemed uncertain. I do not know what to say. She cannot hear me. Maybe not. But say something anyway. It is not for her, really. It is for you. Voss stepped forward slowly. He looked at the stone with its carved words. Private Una, brave soldier, true friend. She gave her life so others could live. I did not know you, Voss said. His old voice was rough. I never saw your face, but I know what you did. I know that you gave your life for another. Among my people, we would call this duty and think no more of it. But I begin to think we are wrong. I begin to think such sacrifice deserves to be remembered. He paused. The wind blew across the ridge. I have forgotten many, Voss continued. So many that I cannot count them. Friends from my youth. Soldiers who served under me. My own blood family. I forgot them because my culture told me to. But standing here, in front of this stone, I wonder if I lost something precious. I wonder if the forgetting made me less than I could have been. Tejo stood and put a hand on the old Velen's arm. It was a strange thing, touching a Velen. Their skin was cold and rough, like stone. But Voss did not pull away. Remembering is hard, Tejo said. It hurts. Every day I come here, it hurts. But I would not trade the hurt for anything, because the hurt means she mattered. The hurt means she was real and her life had meaning. Voss looked at him. Your people carry your dead with you. You carry them in your hearts. Yes. Is that not heavy? Is that not a burden? Sometimes. But we do not carry them alone. We share the weight with others who love them. And together, the weight becomes bearable. The weight becomes something else. It becomes strength. Voss was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, long ago, before the Empire became what it is now, the Velen had rituals for the dead. We would gather and speak their names. We would tell stories of their deeds. We would carve their images in stone, so their faces would last forever. What happened? Tejo asked. The Empire happened. Our leaders decided that grief was inefficient. That memory was weakness. They banned the old ways. They taught us to forget. And we did. We forgot so completely that most Velen today do not even know the old ways existed. He looked at the memorial stone again. But standing here, I remember. Not specific people, but the feeling. The sense that there should be more. That we lost something important when we learned to forget. From below, near the outpost, a young human soldier watched the two figures on the ridge. His name was Jin, and he was new to Korra 5. He had heard stories about the sergeant who walked to the grave every day. He had thought it was strange, but seeing Tejo standing there with the Velen elder, he did not think it was strange anymore. He thought it was beautiful. Word spread through the outpost, like fire through dry grass. The human sergeant had taken a Velen elder to the memorial. They had stood together on the ridge. They had spoken words to a stone. Some humans thought it was good. A sign of peace. A bridge between two peoples. Some Velen thought it was strange. Why would an elder waste time on human customs? Others thought it was dangerous. Old ways should stay forgotten, but Elder Voss did not care what others thought. He was too old to care. He spent the next days in his quarters, reading. He searched the old records. He looked for traces of what the Velen had lost. The ancient rituals. The forgotten ways of mourning. He found more than he expected. In the oldest files. Hidden behind layers of security, he found images. Carvings in stone. Velen faces from 1,000 years ago. Beneath each face was a name and a story. These were the honored dead, remembered by their people. Before the Empire decided that remembering was weakness, Voss stared at the images for hours. He felt something moving inside him, something that had been sleeping for a very long time. Commander Wren noticed the changes in the outpost. He noticed Velen soldiers talking to humans more often, asking questions. Strange questions. What do you do when someone dies? Do you speak to them after? Do you believe they can hear? What are these things you call funerals? Wren did not like it. He was a soldier of the Empire. He believed in the old ways, the current ways, the right ways. Forgetting was strength. Grief was weakness. This had been true for 1,000 years. Why should it change now? But then came Kira. Kira was a Velen soldier, young by their standards, only 40 years old. She had gray skin like all Velen, but her eyes were different. They held something that most Velen eyes did not hold: pain, memory, guilt. She came to Tejo one evening after the meal. He was sitting alone, as he often did. She sat across from him without asking permission. "Human?" she said. "I would speak with you." Tejo looked at her. He had seen her around the outpost, but had never talked to her. "What do you want?" "I want to know about your ritual. The one where you go to the high place and speak to the stone." Tejo sighed. "Everyone asks me this now. Ever since Elder Vuss came with me. I am not asking because I am curious," Kira said. Her voice was tight. "I am asking because I need to know." Something in her tone made Tejo pay attention. He looked at her more closely. He saw the pain in her eyes. He recognized it. It was the same pain he saw in his own mirror. "Why do you need to know?" he asked. Kira looked down at the table. Her gray hands were clasped together so tightly that the knuckles had turned white. "I had a brother," she said quietly. "His name was Tal. He was a warrior, like me. We grew up together. We trained together. We were sent to war together." Tejo waited. He knew there was more. He died in the battle. The same battle where your Yuna died. We were fighting on the eastern ridge. A human ship crashed nearby. The explosion killed him instantly. "I am sorry," Tejo said. He meant it. "I have not spoken his name since that day," Kira said. "It has been 3 years. 3 years of silence. My culture tells me this is correct. When someone dies, we forget them. We never speak their name. We pretend they never existed." Her voice cracked slightly. "But I cannot forget him. I try. Every day I try. But his face is in my mind. His voice is in my ears. I dream of him at night. I wake up expecting him to be there, and then I remember that he is gone." Tejo felt his heart ache for her. He knew this pain too well. "The forgetting does not work," Kira continued. "I have followed all the rules. I burned his things. I deleted his image from my records. I never speak of him to anyone. But it does not make the pain go away. It just makes me carry it alone." She looked up at Tejo. Her black eyes were wet. Velen did not cry. Their bodies were not made for it, but something was happening in those eyes. Something that looked very much like tears trying to form. "How do you do it?" she asked. "How do you bear the weight?" Tejo thought carefully before answering. "I do not try to forget. That is the difference. I carry her with me. I talk to her. I visit her stone. I keep her alive in my memory. And yes, it hurts. But the hurt becomes something else over time. It becomes love. It becomes gratitude. It becomes a reason to keep living." Kira was silent for a long moment. "I want to do what you do," she said finally. "I want to make a place for my brother. I want to speak his name. But I am afraid. Afraid of what? Afraid that I will be weak. Afraid that my people will see me and think less of me. Afraid that I will break if I let myself feel what I have been holding back. Taeho reached across the table and put his hand on hers. Her skin was cold, but she did not pull away. "You will not break," he said. "You will bend, yes. You will hurt. You will cry, if your body can cry. But you will not break." Humans have learned this over thousands of years. Grief does not destroy us. Holding it in does. Kira looked at their hands touching. Human and Velen. Enemies once. Maybe friends now. "Will you help me?" she asked. "Will you help me make a place for my brother?" "Yes," Tao said. "I will help you." The next morning, they climbed the ridge together. Taeho carried his flowers for Yuna. Kira carried a stone she had found near the outpost. It was rough and gray, just like her skin. She had spent the night carving words into it with a sharp tool. They reached the top as the sun rose. Taeho knelt before Yuna's stone and placed his flowers. Then he stood and watched as Kira chose a spot nearby. She placed her stone carefully in the ground. She pushed dirt around it to hold it in place. Then she knelt before it. For a long time, she said nothing. She just looked at the stone with its carved words. Taeho could not read Velen writing, but he knew what it said. It was her brother's name, Tal. "I do not know how to do this," Kira said. "Just talk to him. Say what is in your heart." Kira closed her eyes. Her whole body was shaking. She opened her mouth, and the words came slowly. "Tal, my brother, my friend, I have been silent for 3 years. I have obeyed the old rules. But the rules are wrong. The forgetting is wrong. You deserve to be remembered." Her voice grew stronger. "You were brave. You were kind. You used to make me laugh when we were young. You used to protect me from the older children. You taught me to fight. You taught me to be strong." Something wet appeared at the corner of her eyes. Not tears, exactly. Her body was not made for tears. But something close. "I miss you," she said. "Every day I miss you. I wish the war had never happened. I wish you were still here. I wish I could hear your voice one more time." She opened her eyes. They were shining. "But you are not here, and I cannot change that. All I can do is remember. All I can do is carry you with me, the way the humans carry their dead. So that is what I will do." She reached out and touched the stone. "I will come back," she said. "I will come back and speak your name. You will not be forgotten, Tal. I promise." And then she did something that Velen never did. She wept, not with tears, for her eyes could not make them, but with sounds. Deep, shaking sounds from her chest. The sound of a heart breaking open. Taeho knelt beside her and put his arm around her shoulders. He held her as she wept. They stayed there for a long time, the human and the Velen, holding each other on the ridge above the Valley of the Dead. From the outpost far below, Commander Ren watched through his viewer. He saw the 2 figures on the ridge. He saw the Velen soldier weeping. He saw the human holding her. He should have been angry. This was against everything he believed. Grief was weakness. Forgetting was strength. But as he watched, he felt something strange happening inside him. Something cracking. Something breaking open. He thought of his father. His father had been a general, a great warrior. He had died in a battle 50 years ago. Ren had never spoken his name since. He had never visited the place where he fell. He had followed all the rules, but now, watching the 2 figures on the ridge, he wondered if he had been wrong. He wondered if he had lost something precious. He wondered if it was too late to get it. Back. 1 year passed. The ridge had changed. Where once there had been only 1 stone, now there were many. Dozens of them. They spread across the flat ground at the top of the ridge like flowers in a garden. Some were small and rough. Some were large and carefully shaped. Some had words carved in human languages. Some had words in vellum script. Each stone marked a memory. Each stone held a name. Tejo walked the path to the ridge as he always did. But he did not walk alone anymore. Beside him walked Kira. Behind them came Corporal Jin, the young soldier who had watched from below a year ago. He carried flowers for his grandfather, who had died in the war. They reached the top and spread out among the stones. Each went to their own place. Each knelt and spoke their own words. The wind blew gently, as if the planet itself was listening. More people came. Lieutenant Hana walked up the path, carrying a small bundle of letters. She had never spoken of it, but she had lost someone too. A lover killed in the early years of the war. She had kept his letters all this time. Now she placed them beneath a new stone and spoke his name aloud for the first time in a decade. Elder Vis came, walking slowly with his metal stick. His old face showed a peace that had not been there before. He had spent the year teaching others what he had learned. He had shared the ancient ways that the Empire had forbidden. Many Velen had listened. Many had come to the ridge to place their own stones. And then, near midday, a figure appeared that no one expected. Commander Ren walked up the path alone. Everyone stopped what they were doing. They watched him climb. His face was hard to read, as always. But there was something different in the way he moved. Something slower. Something heavier. He carried a stone in his large gray hands. Tejo stood and walked toward him. They met in the center of the ridge, surrounded by all the other memorial stones. "Commander," Tejo said, "I did not expect to see you here." Ren looked at him. For the first time, Tejo saw something in those black eyes. Not emptiness. Not cold. Something else. Something human. "I have been watching," Ren said. "For a year, I have watched. I have seen my soldiers come to this place. I have seen them weep and speak and remember. I told myself it was wrong. I told myself it was weakness." He paused. His voice was rough. But I was the one who was wrong. I was the one who was weak. I hid from my pain for 50 years. I pretended it did not exist. But it was always there. Always. He looked down at the stone in his hands. "This is for my father. He was a general. A great warrior. He died when I was young. I never spoke of him again. I never visited the place where he fell. I followed all the rules my people taught me." His voice cracked slightly. "But the rules were wrong. I know that now. You humans taught me that. You taught all of us." He walked to an empty space among the stones. He knelt, his large body bending with difficulty. He placed the stone in the ground and pressed dirt around it to hold it firm. Then he spoke words in the Vellum language. Tejo did not understand them, but he knew what they meant. They were words of love, words of memory, words that had been locked inside Commander Ren for 50 years, finally set free. When he finished, Ren stayed kneeling. His shoulders shook. No sound came from him, but his body trembled with the weight of released grief. Kira walked over and knelt beside him. She put her hand on his shoulder. She did not speak. She did not need to. They shared the same pain. They shared the same healing. Elderva stepped forward. He raised his old voice so that everyone on the ridge could hear. "I have lived many years," he said. "I have seen wars begin and end. I have seen empires rise and fall. But I have never seen anything like what I see today." He looked around at the stones, at the humans and Velen gathered together. "We Velen thought we were strong. We thought strength meant forgetting. We thought grief was weakness and memory was a chain that held us back. But we were wrong." His voice grew stronger. "The humans taught us the truth. True strength is not in forgetting. True strength is in remembering. True strength is in carrying our dead with us, not as a burden, but as a gift. They make us who we are. They give our lives meaning. To forget them is not strength. It is emptiness. He pointed at the stones all around them. Look at this place. A year ago, there was one stone here. One human, mourning one friend. Now, there are many stones. Human and villain names side by side. Enemies buried together. Enemies remembered together. He smiled, and it was not a strange expression anymore. It was natural. It was right. This is how peace is made. Not with treaties. Not with agreements signed by politicians. Peace is made when enemies learn to grieve together. Peace is made when we see each other not as others, but as people. People who love. People who lose. People who remember. Tejo walked to Yuna's stone. He knelt before it as he had done over 4,000 times now. He placed his flowers in their usual spot. Yuna, he said softly, look at what you started. Look at what we built. He smiled through the tears on his face. The war is really over now. Not because the fighting stopped. The fighting stopped 3 years ago. But the war in our hearts took longer. It took longer to heal. It took longer to find peace. He touched the stone. But we did it. We found it. We learned to grieve together. We learned to remember together. And now enemies have become friends. Strangers have become family. He looked up at the gray sky. I miss you. I will always miss you. But I'm not sad anymore, because I know that your sacrifice meant something. You saved my life, and I used that life to change this world. To change 2 worlds, really. To bring 2 peoples together. He stood slowly. His knees did not hurt as much anymore. Or maybe they still did, but he did not mind. I will come back tomorrow. I will always come back. That will never change. He turned and looked at all the people gathered on the ridge. Humans and Velen. Young and old. All of them carrying their own grief. All of them sharing the weight together. But I will never walk alone again. The sun began to set over Korra 5. The gray sky turned to shades of purple and orange. For a moment, the dead world looked almost beautiful. The people on the ridge began to walk down together. They walked in small groups, talking quietly, sharing stories of those they had lost. Sharing the weight. Tejo was the last to leave. He looked back at the garden of stones one final time. The wind blew gently across them, carrying the dust and the memories together. Somewhere beyond the sky, he knew that Yuna was smiling. He turned and began the walk home. Behind him, the stones stood silent in the fading light. Each one was a name. Each one was a story. Each one was a promise that the dead would not be forgotten. And on this world, where nothing grew, something had finally taken root. Not plants or trees or flowers. Something better. Hope. The story of Sergeant Tejo spread across the stars. It traveled from world to world, told by soldiers and diplomats and ordinary people. The human who walked to a grave every day. The human who taught an alien race to grieve. The human who proved that the simplest acts of love could change the universe. And on every world where the story was told. Humans and aliens alike learned the same lesson. Remembering is not weakness. Forgetting is not strength. The dead are never truly gone, as long as one person still speaks their name. And love, the most human of all things, has the power to reach across the stars and bring even enemies together. This is what it means to be human. This is why they will always remember. This is why they will never walk alone.